TGIF, it's Friday. It's the 7th day of June, 2024. Your Day Weather Podcast is being brought to you by Wyoming State Parks. With temperatures heating up across the Cowboy State, Wyoming State Parks and historic sites are gearing up with a season of fun and educational summer events. Visit these parks' respective Facebook pages for more information. Well, you know what happens when the wind finally stops? You go fishing. Boy, a beautiful day yesterday, very warm across the region, but having those winds much lighter was a great opportunity to get outdoors and have a great evening like what we're seeing there from that photograph. And we're going to have a good part of the day today, just like yesterday. But as the headline says, thunder does start to make a comeback. We're going to see moisture increasing from the west up high, the higher levels of the atmosphere. Moisture is coming in from the northern Great Basin eastward. Moisture at the lower levels, closer to the ground, is coming up from the southeast. And there's a merger right along the divide of moisture up high and moisture down low. You add daytime heating and mountainous terrain, that's a recipe for thunderstorms popping up in the afternoon and evening hours. And the thunderstorms tomorrow, Saturday, will get a very early start. So be ready. It's not going to get all areas. You'll see on the map that there's going to be a concentration of the thunderstorms over the higher terrain of Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, and Utah, and also back down a little bit into part of the Great Basin. You get away from the mountains, further north into the northern plains, you're going to see less. So this is going to be a terrain-induced thunderstorm environment. So that's where you want to be ready at first. If you're headed to the high country this weekend, you got to be ready for these afternoon and evening storms. We're going to be very hot in the western United States, cooler in the eastern parts of the U.S. through the weekend and into early next week. So it's going to be what side of the divide you're on in terms of what the temperatures are going to be doing. We saw yesterday how it was a great day. Yeah, very few clouds. I don't even know if we can consider that a cloud, but it is a little tiny one there in eastern Wyoming yesterday. But boy, a lot of blue sky yesterday. Just a beautiful setting. There you saw a picture from the plains. Here you see a picture in the Leadville area. Look at all that snow in the high country. And speaking of which, that snow in the high country is still pretty deep. And with the recent heat, we're going to see stream flows really going up. In fact, on the Encampment River and the Little Laramie River, so the Encampment River near Encampment in southern Carbon County, Wyoming, there are flood watches in effect, as well as flood warnings along the Laramie River coming out of the Snowy Range near Centennial. Those stream flows are way up, and the satellite imagery really shows that. I grabbed this image from yesterday with all those clear skies. So you can see a lot of white. Now that's typical in early June to still see a lot of snow up there, but there's a lot of snow still to come out. And so with the heat that has moved in, water's coming out of those mountains very quickly. So keep your distance from creeks, rivers, and streams. And this is something to remember with thunderstorms in the forecast again. You add a heavy thunderstorm with melting mountain snowpack, those creeks, rivers, and streams go up really fast and without warning sometimes. So if you're headed out camping this weekend, you may not want to put the camper or the tent right next to the creek because of that fact. Another thing from this satellite imagery, not only do you see the snow still deep in the high country, but you can also see where it's been raining and where it's been green. Look at all the green up here in Montana, the western North Dakotas, parts of Nebraska here, parts of northeastern Wyoming, down to about here. But notice there's green in this mix, but where the rain has not been falling as much, you can see a lot more brown to the ground than the green that you see in those areas where the storms have been going this spring. The satellite image shows you a lot there. Another satellite image, here's that upper level moisture. This is part of a little wave that we've been watching all week. This moisture now is creeping in. So the upper levels, when I talk about the upper levels of the atmosphere, I'm talking as we're getting up to 18 to 30,000 feet or so, where there's going to be more moisture up high. The air column, as we saw yesterday, was very dry and barely any clouds. That is going to be working with this deeper moisture. You see this grayness, this moisture coming up from the southeast. So there's a big area of gray here and brighter clouds. There's just more humidity in the air. And that air, this air mass is going to be moving very slowly underneath the ridge of high pressure. So that's going to get thunderstorms going. And another thing I wanted to show you on the satellite imagery is further out in the Pacific. Look at this. That is a very, very impressive June storm. Now, it's going to spin up into the Gulf of Alaska and the northern Pacific for probably about a week. It's going to be running into this high that's basically going to be here for a bit. This is going to come into play in about 7 days. So putting a bug in your ear, that storm or what's left of that storm is going to enter the western United States in about a week from now. So we'll keep an eye on that. I wanted to show you what the difference is going to be from one day to the next with the moisture. So this was as of late yesterday afternoon. You see all the dry air that we had. And here's the moisture in the upper levels to the west. In just 24 hours, it's going to be right overhead. So this is for later today. And you can see a concentration of blue right here. And this is where the thunderstorms are likely going to be most productive in producing rain. As we step through the thunderstorm forecast, you'll see that here in a minute. We've got a little wave that's going to come right along right here over the next couple of days, initiating the thunderstorms. When we take a look at the temperatures, very warm. These are the temperature anomalies today. Look at the contrast between the cold in Canada and the warm here. This colder Canadian air is going to want to slide this way while the hot high pressure dominates in the west. So this is today. This is Saturday. You see some of that coolness spreading into the Dakotas, but very hot west of the divide. This is Sunday. Hot west of the divide, but the cooler air spills along east of the divide into the Midwest. So there's going to be a contrast this weekend and next week, west to east, with temperatures and conditions. And this is how the thunderstorms will play out. I showed you that axis of deeper blue colors, so you can see right along Interstate 80 here, then out into the plains. It's going to be an active afternoon and evening of thunderstorms. So this is Saturday as well. And Saturday's thunderstorms, would not be surprised if by late morning and early afternoon, they get started early tomorrow, especially in the mountains. So keep that in mind. Then as we go into Sunday, they're spreading a little bit further to the north, but essentially they're in the same general areas for 3 days in a row. And then on Monday, we're going to see a little bit of a shift eastward of everything. So it's going to be a little bit more concentrated along and east of I-25, along I-90 there, then along I-25 and east of I-25 in Colorado and New Mexico into West Texas. But you get out to the plains more where you don't have the lift from the mountains or the high plains, and you're not going to get as much thunderstorm activity. Now, speaking of thunderstorms, folks, going outdoors, just a friendly reminder about lightning safety. And you see that link above? That link will take you to a great PDF that you can print out. It's actually 2 pages that you should have in your backpack or post on a bulletin board or whatever. We already have had a very tragic lightning fatality in North Park, Colorado back in May with a rancher and some livestock. It's just one of these situations where lightning is a lot more dangerous than we sometimes give it credit for, especially in the higher terrain and the open areas of the West that we live in. So I really recommend, if you haven't already, go to that link, download that PDF, read it. It gives you great tips. It's a great resource. As we go further out, this is for Monday. High pressure is breaking down. That frontal boundary is what's going to concentrate those thunderstorms right here, as we showed you earlier. So that's something to watch. Be ready for the thunderstorms. They're going to make a comeback. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you on Monday.